How are you tonight? Good. I thought that tonight I would read chapter 3 of Welcome to the Underworld. I've already read chapters 1 and 2 in other ASMR videos that I have. You can find them if you type in storytelling ASMR. And a lot of you have been asking me for another one, or for part 3. So I decided to do part 3 for you. So I'll be reading chapter 3 tonight. And this time, I actually have the physical book with me, which I'm very excited about because this is my absolute favorite book of all time. And I hope that soon it will be yours too. So, let's get started. Let's get to chapter 3. Okay. Chapter 3. The King of Serpents. Less than 2 minutes. I guess you're not too attached to this place after all. The cocky customer guy poised upon hearing the sound of her stomping footsteps. He stood on the street curb with his hands tucked into his pockets. He was staring off into a now hectic street. He didn't even bother to turn around to look at her. Chewing her bottom lip, Yuri kept her sharp gaze on him. "What do you want?" she asked at once. She folded her arms and narrowed her eyes onto his profile. Was it possible to dislike someone as much as she disliked this guy at this particular moment? His eyes still on the busy street, he said, "We'll talk in the car." Yuri was beside herself with how he was treating her. First he blackmailed her, then he forced her into slave labor, and now he was refusing to make eye contact while speaking to her. Bastard, she thought furiously, glowering at him. As if hearing the scorn in her resentful mind, Yuri's prospective boss averted his gaze from the street and settled his eyes onto her. Her body tensed up when he did this. He wasn't glaring, but his vacant stare was enough to intimidate her. It was enough to subdue any plot of murder on her part. The pulsating motion of her blood froze, and she closed the distance between them. His 6-foot frame towered over her. Taking off his red cap, he followed the move by fixing his disheveled hat hair and gazing upwards at the sky. He sighed as though he was relieved to finally be able to take the damn thing off. Now, despite herself, Yuri gawked as her anger for him gradually faded away. She was distracted, extremely distracted, with all that was happening in the diner. She didn't even have the opportunity. She didn't have the opportunity to get a close look to assess his physical traits. She would have figured that the guy would have a bad hair day after taking off the cap. However, she had to admit his short black hair looked good after he fixed it up. Yuri's breathing grew slightly shallower as her gaze on him remained. Holy, it hadn't occurred to her how attractive this guy was without the red cap distracting her from his face. Strong chin and jaw, full tempting lips, and peculiar... I don't know how to pronounce that word, I'm sorry. Eyes complemented his perfectly sculpted face. If angels existed, then this one was the arc of all the angels. She honestly had to do a double take. Was this handsome thing, this the same beast who just blackmailed her into slavery. Upon returning his attention to her, those enticing lips curved up in amusement. He wore a smile of masculine pride. One knew that without a shadow of a doubt, she was admiring his striking features. Yuri got herself off her eyes. Sorry, there's some actual, grammar mistakes in this book because it was self-published, so I apologize. Yuri caught herself, and her eyes widened. She uncomfortably scratched the back of her head, her face growing darker shade of pink. She attempted to look elsewhere. She was utterly mortified that she had been caught cocking. We got off to a really bad start, he began, giving no mention of the fact that he knew she was admiring his features. When he saw that she was still avoiding eye contact, he edged closer to her. He tilted his head to meet her eyes. Yuri nodded slowly, her breathing becoming unsteady again. It surprised her that I just saw some lightning. Wait, let's see if there's thunder. Still going. Still going. Oh my goodness. Okay. When he saw that she was still putting her edge closer to her, he tilted his head to meet her eyes. Yuri nodded slowly, her breathing becoming unsteady again. It surprised her that she adored the sound of his voice. When he was so nice and polite, she shook, vexed with herself. What was wrong with her? Wasn't she supposed to be furious with this guy? Yeah, forcing someone into slave labor never leaves a good first impression. She sarcastically replied, trying desperately to hold on to what was left of the sassy Yuri, who wasn't infatuated with her potential boss / blackmailing customer. Nor spilling blazing hot coffee on someone's hand, he retorted, his smirk morphing into a charming smile. His face glowed like an angel in the morning light. She nodded slowly, this time riveted by his change in behavior. He was actually being somewhat likable. She enjoyed their new form of interaction very much. Given the change in communication style, Yuri wondered if he suddenly found interest in her too. Was this the reason for his amicable behavior? Anyway, we obviously didn't meet properly, he went on. His tone was almost apologetic. The name is Kwon Taehyun. Friends call me Taehyun. Yuri could only blink in response. Lost in a stupor, she was forgetting why she disliked him in the first place. The smile that had brought innocence to his face soon faded into like a devilish one when he said his next words. You can call me boss, though. Seeing as though you're only the assistant, he chuckled, roughly sticking the red cap on her head. The familiar aura of his pompous personality had returned, and Yuri was left with nothing but a bad taste in her mouth. She glowered at him. Now she remembered why she disliked him so much. She took off the red cap in irritation. She gaped at it in outrage. What am I supposed to do with this? She demanded, holding it up like he had just given her a foreign object she's never seen before. As her blood boiled dangerously, her face grew redder with rage. She was beside herself that she was even momentarily attracted to him. Kwon Taehyun was an ass. Enough said. Clearly entertained with the death glare Yuri was giving, Taehyun simply grinned as he turned away from her. He stretched his long arms into the air, and he yawned in boredom. Hold it, of course, assistant, he said, in reference to the red cap. He narrowed his eyes onto her. He lowered his arms, his voice turning stern. But if you mess up, or if you lose it, you're dead. You hear that, assistant? Yuri's eyes bulged. The audacity of him infuriated her. Addressing her as assistant, who did he think he was? It enraged her how quickly he could change from being a charming guy to a complete ass in a matter of seconds. She grimaced when she came to her answer. Typical male. She concluded with hatred. Well, she won't have it. She wasn't going to let this guy walk all over her. The name was Yuri. Hands on her hips. She took a step closer to him. Cho Yuri, she said finally, killing the urge to step on his feet. She tried hard to appear intimidating under his entertained gaze. Friends and everyone else call me Yuri, so you can do the same. Instead of responding to her with words of dispute, Taehyun decided to simply stare her down. It was as if, for his own amusement, he was trying to silently intimidate her. Being the stubborn and prideful fool she was, Yuri puffed up her chest and glowered up at him with the same ferocity, and they stared at each other for what seemed like forever, neither blinking. The staring challenge became so intense that Yuri's eyes were beginning to twitch non-stop, desperately begging her to blink so that they could function again. The twinge of pain pricked at her eyes, making her groan. She couldn't handle it anymore. Miserably admitting defeat, Yuri dragged her gaze away, blinking in the shame as her dry eyes basked in the glory of having its moisture restored. Distracted by her disgrace of losing, Yuri was taken by surprise when she felt him reach for her hand. He laced his fingers with hers and tugged her with him, nearly causing her to trip over her own feet. "Car's here," he casually stated, acting as if they didn't commence a lethal staring contest seconds prior. Yuri distractedly followed Taehyun, her eyes not believing what they were seeing. She pointed incredulously at the back Hummer limo that was idly approaching them. "You called that a car?" Taehyun chuckled, pulling her closer once the impossibly lavish limo made a complete stop at the curb. She gaped in awe as the lean, butler-looking chauffeur ran out and guided towards them. He was wearing an all-black suit and dark sunglasses, his white-gloved hands stretched out, and he opened the door, smiling at them. Taehyun pulled her in the limo. Oof. Yuri struggled to get in without falling on her face, and once she successfully planted her butt on the leather seat, the door slammed and shut behind her, causing the natural sunlight to fade into oblivion. She repositioned herself in the seat beside Taehyun. Her eyes roamed over the limo in wonderment, the interior illuminated with white and blue lights. The black leather seats stretched out into the far corners of the limo. It's gonna thunder again in a second. Wait for it. Beneath their feet, the carpet sparkled with red velvet hue. Her eyes traveled the length of the bar to the side. The shot glasses that sat on it appeared to be embroidered with diamonds. "This is too rich," she thought incredulously, lost in the affluent ambiance. "I would have figured that you were the type of girl who was used to this type of amenity," Taehyun observed carelessly, grabbing a bottle of crystal and 2 champagne glasses. I hope I pronounced that right. He poured the crystal into 2 glasses. He handed her a champagne glass. "In another life, maybe." She clumsily took the champagne glass. She was very much thrown off balance with all this, and she knew Taehyun was not just another guy off the streets, but from the looks of how decadent this ride was, it was evident that he was far from ordinary. Choyori. Yuri shuddered when she addressed him by her full name. For whatever reason, it made her feel inferior to him. You can just call me Yuri, she corrected at once. Choyori, he repeated, dismissing her request. I believe it's time to talk business. Yuri breathed in slowly, feeling more anxious than ever. She was bitter that Dayan was still addressing her by her full name, but she decided to let it go. She had bigger fishes to concern herself with, namely negotiating herself a good employment deal. To start off, I run a billion-dollar business. I'm a very busy man. Just so you know, this is absolutely nothing like 50 Shades of Grey, so don't worry. What I need is very simple. I need someone to assist me in my day-to-day activities. My work is confidential. Once you start, you are expected to keep your mouth shut about what you see and hear. I do not work regular hours, so you can throw the 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. concept right out the window. It's gonna thunder again. So loud. I work with people who are known to be rough around the edges. I expect you to be able to mold yourself to get along with them. I need someone who can work well under pressure and lead a group if necessary. Being in shape is crucial. It is not only for the benefit of people's eyes, but for your own benefit as well, as the job will require a lot of running around. In my line of business, it is quite possible that you may get hurt while on the job. This is why I offer full health coverage. Yuri's eyes bloomed at the possibility of needing full health coverage. What was he gonna have her do? Ignoring her dramatic reaction, Dayan continued. Your duties will range from helping me set up the appointments, researching for me, making me dinner, or making me coffee. He stopped midway and stared at his red hand, reminded of her less than impressive track record with handling coffee. He said, maybe not the last part, but basically anything to help make my life better and easier. I travel a lot. I travel a lot. I expect you to be by my side every step of the way. He took out a blackberry and tossed it to her. Yuri fumbled to catch it. She nearly spilled her drink in the process. And last but not least, you are now provided with the company phone. When I need you, I expect you to be there as soon as possible. You are not to disappoint me in this matter. Any questions? Yuri asked at once. It was the most important thing. Commission-based. Based on what? How much you make me happy. A suggestive smile touched his lips. It can vary, depending on how good you are. Now Yuri straightened up. Her internal alarm blaring. Let's get one thing straight here. I'm here to assist you. I'm not going to have sex with you. He closed his eyes and laughed quietly, leaving her to feel just a little bit smaller than before. I don't have sex with the help. Yuri's teeth clenched, but she maintained her poise. She had more business arrangements to focus on. Well, I just wanted to get that out there. I don't want you forcing me. Dayan rolled his eyes. You will not be forced to have sex with me. Now can we move on from this topic? Yuri nodded. The hours. Can I get an estimate of how many hours a day I'm working? Am I working all days of the week? Do I get sick days or vacation days? Dayan leaned in and leveled his gaze onto her. You are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. The only sick day you get is on leap year, and that's only a day. Yuri's jaw dropped upon hearing this ludicrously evil schedule. That's slave labor. That's being my assistant, he replied just as heatedly. You literally gave me a second-degree burn. Here comes again. Lightning. Thunder. Second-degree burns. Where's the thunder? There it is. You literally gave me a second-degree burn. You're lucky you're not in jail rotting away right now. Yuri slapped the palm of her hand against her forehead. How crappy can this job get? You're being unreasonable right now. I'll tell you what, he pacified, edging closer to her. We'll negotiate more once you start working. Once I see that you're an asset to have, I'll work with you on your terms. But for now, it's my terms. Do we have an agreement? Her eyes formed suspicious slits when another thought entered her mind. How long will I be working for you? How long do you want to stay? Well, that's the thing. I don't want to work for you at all. And Taehan frowned. Well, that obviously won't work out because, that obviously won't work out. Before Yuri could interject, he hurried on. But I'll tell you what. Basically, at this point, I do need you for the next couple of months. I have a lot of social events and business meetings, and it's crucial that you're there to help me. Now, how about you start working for a couple months and we'll just go from there? Yuri considered his proposition. Being his personal assistant was definitely not the ideal situation. However, she really wasn't in much of a position to further negotiate, seeing that she had just met a dead end. This guy was either going to send her to jail or force her to work for him. Given that she would at least be paid to be his assistant, there was no other choice for her. Yuri stifled a groan. She was definitely going to regret her next words. Where do I sign? Taehan rewarded Yuri with a smile. In my world, you do not sign anything. A deal is made with a shake of a hand or a clink of glasses. He held his champagne glass towards her. Do we have a deal? She divided the apprehensive glance between Taehan and his champagne glass. There was no turning back after this. It felt like she was getting ready to sign her life off to the devil. Uneasiness clouded her body as she thought. She inhaled deeply. She was scared, but it couldn't be too hard, right? She held up her glass. She was ready to seal her agreement. The glasses were about to collide before Taehan peeled us away, and Yuri gave him a quizzical look. Yuri, let me reiterate this point clearly, he emphasized. Throughout this whole process, you can completely fuck up on anything else, and you will be forgiven. But the one thing I demand from you is that when I call you, I expect you to be there. I need you to understand this, day or night, rain or shine, when I need you, you have to be there. Yuri gave him a strange look. She couldn't help but think that this guy was horribly, horribly high maintenance. Did he really need someone to be his slave 24/7? Not taking the request seriously and no longer wanting to prolong this negotiation process, she simply smiled at him and held up her champagne glass. She was ready to make a bullshit promise. Day or night, rain or shine, when Kwon Taehan needs me, I, Cho Yuri, will be right there by his side. Satisfied with her promise, Taehan nodded, clinking his glass with hers. Deal. The limo came to a slow stop as they both drank from their respective glasses. Placing his glass into the cup holder, Taehan clapped his hands together in anticipation. He was clearly relieved that the hard part of the business relationship was over. Alright, Joyuri, it's now time for you to start working. I didn't have much luck with my first assistant, making it through the end of his term, and I pray you will have a different fate. You had another assistant? Jory asked. Oh, Yuri asked, mindlessly. He nodded. I didn't make a deal with him like I did with you, but he was my right-hand man, and a good one, too. It was a shame to lose him. Did he quit? Yuri asked casually. Take another sip of crystal. You could say that. He couldn't handle it. He basically died. What? Yuri had to sheath her hand over her mouth to keep from spitting out the crystal. From exhaustion, right? She asked shakily, wanting to verify that he meant dying only as a metaphor. He couldn't possibly mean it as anything else. Taehan had an unaffected look on his face. No. He died. He repeated simply. From exhaustion. She inquired again, unease seeping into her. No, he took a bullet for me. In what sense? She stuttered, hoping desperately that Taehan was just horrible at using metaphors. The thumping in her heart escalated. Her sixth sense was working again, and it wasn't giving her good news. He leveled his gaze with hers, bored that she still hadn't gotten the point, in the sense that someone shot at me, missed, and killed him instead. Yuri gaped at him in horror. She was only reawakened when she realized that her crystal was about to spill over on the carpet. She held it upright and gazed at him, finally comprehending the hazardous situation that she was in. What business are you in? She screamed, inching away from him. If this was his idea of a sick joke, it was not funny. The sound of the door opening permeated the limo. Taehan stared back at Yuri. His face glowed under the rays of the natural light, giving him a divine appearance, further elongating the anticipation from Yuri and the burned silence that was gnawing away at her. He purposely made things worse by reaching for a black blazer on the other side of the seat. Taehan had his gaze on her the whole time as he put on his blazer. Yuri gulped at the deafening silence. Why did Taehan somehow appear more intimidating than before? Once her anxiety reached its precipice, he finally decided it was due time to enlighten her. I am one of the leading entrepreneurs of the Underworld, he explained coolly. Some know me as Kwon Taehan, but most other people know me as King of the Serpents, the leader of one of the most notorious gangs in this country. He extended his hand out to her, the same amused smile layering his striking face. Yuri, welcome to my world. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 3. I hope you all enjoyed that. And if you would leave comments or ideas on if you wanted me to read the next chapter,